Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all fantastic. It is wonderful here. Yesterday, I revealed to you that I had been on vacation for the last week, and that I pre-recorded videos because I feel like it's probably not a great idea to advertise that I'm going to be out of my home for a week. And I took a vacation to Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. Spent 4 days at the park. And so today, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it's like to go to a theme park in the midst of everything that's going on in the world. I'm going to avoid the words because YouTube doesn't like it when you say the words. So I'm going to talk about the situation, and hopefully we all understand what that means. First of all, Em and I had been talking about going to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter for a very long time. We both are big fans. We've watched the movies together probably 3 or 4 times through, and we both just love it, right? So being able to see that was something that was on both of our bucket lists, and we'd been struggling with work and just being locked up in a house for a year, and she just finally decided, let's go. I had gotten vaccinated, so I was like, sure, let's do that. And the next thing I know, she booked the trip and said, we're going. I already paid for it. And I was like, okay. So I went along for the ride, and I will tell you that because of the situation, it was a little less of the experience that I expected, right? Like, I think that's the given, right? When you I chose to put myself and I guess everybody in my family in harm's way by going to a very public place like that with some very confined spaces with lots and lots of people. And it was a choice that I made to, based on the risk that I have seen in the world and my own health. I've already had the virus. I know how it impacted me. I know how it impacted my family. My children had it. Their mom had it. Em had it. I've seen it. So I'm okay with taking that risk for a vacation. And I will tell you right off the bat that I felt safer at Orlando or at Universal Studios than I do going to my local Walmart. Universal Studios put in measures to try to, this is what we're going to talk about, they tried to do crowd control, at least to some degree. Whereas my local Walmart right now is, aside from a person at the door who goes, hey, you need a mask here, and hands a mask to them, and then doesn't even care if the person puts it on before they walk in the store or not, that's it. That's all my Walmart has done. I felt safer at a theme park than I do going to the grocery store. So, the way that it worked at Universal was you had to have your mask on at all times. You weren't allowed to take it off unless you were stationary and eating and drinking. And they really emphasize that. Like, just because you're drinking and walking around all day doesn't mean you can take your mask off. Like, if you're going to eat or drink, you need to stop and move out of the flow of traffic and be away from people, and then you can take your mask down and drink and eat. And for the most part, I would say people respected that. I saw people who did not respect it, but normally, not to give those people a pass, but it was normally when we were outside in open air. I didn't see a lot of that indoors. In all of the spaces where lines might form, Universal put in a lot of effort to put tape on the ground that said, stand here. And the idea would be you would wait for the party ahead of you to clear their piece of tape and move to the next one before you advanced forward. And that, some people tried. I saw a lot of people who just did not care and would get all up against you or, very close in your space. And the idea was that because of the snaking lines, my line and the line ahead of me might be 12 feet apart because the line over here is at the 6 feet. So I'm 6 feet from this person, they're 6 feet from the person in front of me. And people just didn't seem to get that at all. I did see quite more than once, like probably 3 or 4 times, a worker actually yelling at people to, get on their lines, like obey the 6 foot rule. And so that felt pretty good. But overall, I would say that people, I would say that maybe 30% of the people tried. It seemed like about 70% of the people just didn't care and were just like, I'll stay, you know, I'll stay on arm's reach from you, but the person right next to me, you know, it was a little bit strange. And the other experience with that is if you've been to a theme park, often the line is part of the attraction. As you go through these lines, there's displays and there's animatronics and there's stories, and especially in Harry Potter world, all of the pictures on the wall are talking to you and giving you little bits of narrative, and there's, you know, kind of virtual screen stuff happening, and oftentimes they would like a call waiting hold line, they would play this repetitive, remember to stay 6 feet, you must have your mask on at all times covering your mouth and nose, blah 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 blah, and it would turn off all of the attraction noise while you had to listen to that. And so a lot of the times in the lines you didn't even get to experience the entire attraction. We also, going to, say, Gringotts Bank, you get to go on the Escape from Gringotts. And there's a part of that attraction where you step into an elevator, and it's supposed to be an animated ride as part of the attraction. That was completely shut down because it would have been two closed doors and enclosed space with people in it. And so they just didn't do that. So we didn't get to experience that part of the attraction. But there's some benefits to that. For instance, when we got to Harry Potter World, there is Ollivanders, which the first park that we got into, I should have backed up and told you that we only got passes to Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. We did not get Volcano Bay, which is the water park. So we were just going between the two. Islands of Adventure opened an hour early, so we would go in there first. And that part of the park is where Hogwarts is and Hogsmeade. But they have an Ollivanders there. Even though in the series there's no Ollivanders in Hogsmeade, it's in Diagon Alley. They had one there that you could go visit. So we went there. And when the park is at full capacity, normally that attraction is they let 20 people in at a time. Then one person out of those 20 gets picked to do the wand ceremony where they get their wand picked for them. But because of the situation, they were only letting a single travel group in. So we got to go in as just the two of us. And Em got to get her wand. And then we went back in on Monday. I went through and I got my wand. I had already bought a wand, but whatever. So there was some benefit to the situation. The other thing is, it's Florida, and even in whatever month it is right now, April, I think it is, it was hot. It was very, very hot. The Friday that we went, it was in the 70s. We wore our wizard robes all day, and that was okay. But Sunday or Saturday, it was really blazing hot. Like upper 80s, really bright sun. It was super hot, and wearing that mask all day in the heat was stifling. It was tough. But we did it. You know, it's what we had to do, and it was okay. And then it got better. Like Sunday, it was a little cooler because it was overcast, and then Monday it was a lot cooler. We wore our robes again and played wizards. But we spent most of our time in Harry Potter World. We did do the rest. We went and rode the Simpsons ride. We rode the Hulk coaster and Spider-Man ride and the Mummy. The Mummy, I think, was both of our surprise ride. Like there was never a line there, and it was really good. It was an excellent ride. The other thing about all of the rides, before you could get on the ride, they would give you hand sanitizer. You had to hand sanitize before getting on rides. You just had to do it. And so that felt good. They had a person just putting pumps in your hand, go to this row, go to that row. The other positive of the situation is when you got on a ride that was, say, the Mummy, which was you were in a car that had 2 rows of seats that were 4 deep. Because there was only 2 of us, they only seated 1 group per row, so we had 2 empty seats. So we didn't have to be sitting next to strangers. That was awesome. Like, that was one of those things that I wish could continue going forward, right? Like, it was great that every time we got on a ride or went to an attraction, there was nobody sitting next to us. That was actually really nice. But I will say that if you're going to do it, it's inexpensive it's quote inexpensive right now. And what I mean by that is it's cheaper than normal. And part of that reason is that there's a lot of the park is shut down right now. There was Poseidon's Odyssey, this play performance piece that is in this really amazing Greek theater, is just not active. And I would have loved to have seen that, because after playing the Immortals Rise of the Phoenix, like as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, I'm really into this place. And then I found out it was shut down. So there is a lot that you can't do right now. There's a lot of attractions that just simply are not open. There's very few stage shows, very, very few. There was a couple of live performances in Hogwarts, in Diagon Alley. There was a couple of performances there. There were very, very, very few characters that you could meet. It was definitely a scaled back experience. But as I said in the beginning of this, I felt safe. I felt like Universal Orlando really tried to make it a safe space, especially considering that the rest of Florida doesn't care. Universal Orlando doesn't have to do what they did to maintain social distancing and masks and hand sanitizer. They don't have to do that. Florida is open. You can do whatever you want in Florida right now. And it felt really good that they were trying. I took my wristband off. We stayed in one of Universal's resorts. And in order to stay in their resort and ride their transit to the parks and back, you had to get a wristband every day. You had to get your temperature taken every day. And if you started to have a fever, you weren't allowed on the premises. So they were actually actively checking every day. It was a different color wristband to make sure that everybody there was healthy and safe. And all of the measures that they had in place at the park was also in place at the resort. They had lines in front of Starbucks where you had tape on the floor. You had to maintain your distance. They constantly played reminders to stay away from people and wear your mask over your nose, and it felt fine. It didn't feel normal, but it felt a lot more normal than sitting on the couch for a year, right? It felt great, is what it felt like, and I'm really glad I did it. That again, I took the risks upon myself. Em took the risks upon herself. I think we are fine. I guess, time will tell, but I'm really happy that we did it. I really wanted to just go be a wizard for 4 days, and I got to do it. And I got to do some special things thanks to the situation. I hope to be able to go back after the situation has been resolved so that I can experience the rest of the park that I didn't get to experience, because there was really a lot to see. All of Universal Studios has some really fun, cool aesthetic and attraction, and it would be nice to see it completely open. There you go. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments. I will try to answer them as best as I can. Thank you for being here, as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is fastidious. It is an adjective meaning to be particular about things, particularly good housekeeping and personal hygiene. To place great importance on even the smallest of details. A fastidious person in the throes of love is a rich source of mirth. Martha Duffy, arts editor for Time magazine. Fastidious. Fastidious. I can be very fastidious about certain things, and I think a lot of that got instilled in me by the Marines, but my mom is also hyper clean. Very, very detail oriented when it comes to her house.